2, mm. Playing fast. Playing fast is very difficult to do. It requires a lot of technique, a lot of flexibility, and it requires a lot of language being internalized in order to be able to execute on a moment's notice. Let's talk about a few of those aspects. Now, in order to play fast, one of the first things you have to understand is that it requires the ability to play fast. In order to be able to play fast, you have to do serious study with a metronome, practicing slowly and cleanly first. I recommend doing all types of scales and really playing those scales in 2 octaves, starting in the middle. One of the first things you got to understand about playing fast is that you have to have the technical facility to be able to do so. How do you get that technical facility? You have to first start slow and build, and be very patient with your building. You want to work on your scales, your arpeggios, and all 12 keys with a metronome, starting in the middle octave and working 2 octaves on your instrument, on the trumpet, like this. Just take a major scale. I'm gonna start in the middle, go down 1, up 2, down 2. Really banging the valves down to get that muscle memory together. Then as you get better with that, you click up the notch a little bit. So as we click up the notch, we're going to make sure that all of the other keys can be played at that tempo. It's very, very, very important that you're not playing lightning speed in one key and sort of sluggish in another key. So I want to make sure that although I'm playing faster in the key of B flat, let's make sure that I'm playing fast in the key of A. Okay, so we have A, it's pretty good. Now we want to make sure that the other key around it is just as good. B. Okay, so B is pretty good. So once you're able to play all of these scales in a certain type of scale and all 12 keys at a faster tempo, then you can start to click that metronome marking up. So now we're going to move the metronome marking ahead at even faster tempo to show you how light you should be playing at these tempos. So when we play like at extreme velocities, we want to make sure that we're playing very light, not loud at all. Okay, so this is quarter note equals 170, and I'm going to show you what it sounds like when you're playing loud. It's very kind of off-putting. You can't hear the metronome. It's sluggish, it's sloppy. But if you play lighter, you're able to incorporate the sense of a pulse. Actually, it's like you're pulsing with the metronome almost on the beginning of every fourth 16th note. Okay, so you can hear a sense of a pulse or an accent just to make sure that I'm kind of checking myself with the pulse to make sure that I'm right in the time. It's very important. And again, we want to make sure that we can still play those scales. Check the note, check the key that's around it, the lower key and the key that's above, just to assess yourself. Okay, so if it's a little sluggish, you have to ask yourself, oh man, can I do this really? You try it again with more concentration, lighter, pulsing more. Okay, and you assess that with the key that's right above it. Okay, and now you can try that with other keys. Okay, try that with other scales, making sure that you keep that pulse going. You're playing very light. Another thing you want to make sure is that you don't want your valves, you don't want your fingers so far away from your valves that you can't kind of get down there in enough time. You want to make sure that they're very close to the valves. So I'm just going to play a chromatic scale and play with the valves close, the fingers close to the valves. Okay, so as close as you can with the valves. Some people actually practice playing slowly with dimes on top of the valves, okay? That's very difficult. I'm not able to do that yet, honestly, but it's definitely something that you could check out. Another thing you want to be aware of is when you're playing fast, you want to target the ends of phrases. Sometimes in the middle of your phrase, you may get off a little bit, but if you keep the end of the phrase in mind, then you'll be able to recover and move on to the next section. So this is something you want to check out. We're going to demonstrate that real quick. 1, 2, So if you notice, a few times I may have gotten off a little bit with an idea that I wanted to play, but I always recovered at the end of the phrase because I'm targeting that end of the phrase. I know exactly where I want to go, and I'm creating a moment in space for myself to be able to recover. It's very, very, very important that you make sure that you have a nice balance of sound and silence when you're doing this. You can find yourself kind of falling into the abyss of notes if you allow yourself to just get carried away and let your fingers do the talking. What you want to do is make sure that your mind is telling your fingers what to play. You don't want that to happen in reverse. A lot of times we get on autopilot and our fingers are just wiggling, okay? So notes will just come flying out that won't make a lot of sense. But if you're consciously involved in the process of creating phrases that have a distinct beginning and distinct end, then your solo will make much more sense. And I'll show you what that means. I'm just going to play and play without consciously thinking about where to start and begin phrases, and just kind of let my fingers go. Two, So although I'm kind of in the changes, I'm not really playing a concise solo, and I'm not playing with any direction or any musical thought, okay? So I want to make sure that I create spaces so that my musical ideas can have a clear ending, clear resolution, and I can express the next phrase clearer. Two, Okay? So it's important to be able to have that space, okay? Don't allow the silence to spook you out and think that you're supposed to just keep playing, allowing the fingers to wiggle and aimlessly. So in playing fast, you have to have the facility in order to execute those ideas fast. You have to be comfortable enough to allow the silences to dictate what you're supposed to play. And you also want to make sure that you are in mind of the phrases, keeping in mind the phrase endings, all very important to playing fast.